everybody, I'm Chris Schmidt from Rocket Lasso, and I want to start out with a big thank you to Matthias and to Maxon for putting this entire show on and inviting me to participate again on C4D Live. Our pseudo NAB should be really fun, and I'm looking forward to this presentation. I've been looking forward to this idea for a while. The idea actually originated as a question in one of my live streams. I do a live stream called Rocket Lasso Live every week on Twitch and on YouTube, where I just take questions live from the audience. We try and create things primarily in Cinema 4D. And there was a Ragdoll question that started there. Rocket Lasso as a company started about a year ago. Me and my brothers started it. We're hard at work on tools and plugins, primarily for Cinema 4D, working on tutorials. And like I said, I do the live streams, and it's just a lot of fun. And I hope everybody comes and checks it out. I have a Patreon set up. If anybody sees anything that they like here, all of the scene files I'm creating are going to be available for anybody supporting at any level on Patreon. But without further ado, let's take a look at some of the things that we're going to be tackling. Obviously, we're going to be creating some ragdolls. And here you can see we're going to be implementing some nice realistic characters in here. And I think it's actually a pretty straightforward technique for getting them fully integrated. I'm actually kind of shocked at how simple that is. Some of the techniques just get really nuts, where I've been trying to push the technique a little bit further. You can kind of see here the raw dynamics, but you can take that, implement it, and start making the fancier versions of it. I don't know. It's just a really open technique, and I'm really excited to see where everybody goes with this. All right, here we are in Cinema 4D R21. I've already got a scene file prepped just so we have a little bit of texture, a little bit of lighting. So we're not looking at a blank gray screen the entire time. Now, we're going to begin with a figure. It's great because, first of all, everybody has access to it. And second of all, the scale of this is going to match everything that comes in from Mixamo, probably because both are based off of the average height of a human. We get this figure. I want to see the polygons. I'm going to NB. We want to make this as low poly as possible. So I'm actually going to drag this all the way down. Let's drag that down. And okay, maybe that's a little too low poly. We want a little bit of detail. Enough to fill out the form. So I'm going to tick it up again. There we go. That's pretty good. So very low poly, but we're not really wasting any. And of course, the fewer objects, the fewer polygons, and the quicker everything's going to run, especially if we're going to be cloning a whole bunch of them. We will make this editable. It's going to explode out to a bunch of pieces. If I hold down Control or Command, as I hit plus, it'll actually expand everything out. And you can see all the different pieces involved in the character. And that's looking great. But there's a lot of pieces here. We don't need all of these. So we're going to use a function we don't use too often. I'm going to select the bottom one, hold down Shift, select the top one, and then we can right-click. We're going to do a function that we don't use too often, and that is going to be Ungroup Objects. We click on that, and now everything's been pulled out of their group. It's going to make it easier to select all of the different elements. And now I can grab my rectangle selection and just drag and grab a whole rectangle. And now it's going to be grabbing the floor, so I'm going to temporarily hide that floor. And I'm going to select the entire hand like that. And you see we get two different pieces. And the way we're going to be building this, we don't need both of those to be separate objects. I'm just going to right-click and say Connect and Delete. And we're going to do the same thing with every relevant pair of objects here. So grab those, right-click, Connect and Delete. We'll do it with these. Right-click, Connect and Delete. The upper leg, Connect and Delete. The knee and the shin, right-click, Connect and Delete. And the foot, right-click, Connect and Delete. And two more. We got the torso and the little waist. I'm going to make those as one object, Connect and Delete. And we got the head and the neck can also be treated as a single one, Connect and Delete. Now we're only going to work off of half of this model because hopefully we can save ourselves a little bit of time later, not needing the entire collection. In addition to that, we got a couple extra objects here that aren't doing anything. We got this effector. That's an empty object. Right foot effector, essentially anything named effector. That's not doing anything. It's empty geometry. Head effector, don't need that. And let's see, is that everything? Oh, figure, that's an empty one. It's an empty polygon object now, essentially a null. There we go. And now you can see we've actually knocked this down to very few objects. We don't have to worry about that many of them. So with that in mind, let's immediately make them dynamic. Select everything, right click, simulation, rigid body. I'm going to copy one of those rigid body tags over to the floor. And now it should be ready to hit play and everything falls apart. That's great. It's fun to play with dynamics in cinema, but obviously this is just the very beginning. Now, I want to add as much clarity to this setup as we can. I want to get as much information as we can because it is a fairly technical setup. I think it's pretty straightforward. Hopefully this will be explained in a way that everybody can follow along, but we do have to be very specific, and anything we can do to add clarity to our testing and our building is a good thing. So I prepped just the generic checkerboard material here. So yeah, this is the checkerboard. And we're going to apply that to everything. In fact, I can just actually, why don't we create a null? I'll create a null and we'll name this Ragdoll and make all of our geometry a child of that. And that way we don't have to apply a tag to every object. We can just apply it directly to the top and it'll filter down to all of them. So now we got that Ragdoll. It's going to show us the rotation a little bit, but you know what, to tell you the truth, I would like to see it even more clear. So I'm going to select all of our geometry, grab our live selection tool, and I'm going to select all of the polygons that are front facing very quickly. Let's see, grab those. I guess we can grab that. Even on the hand, even on the leg. And this, believe me, this is going to be very useful to us later on. Spending this a little bit of extra time is totally worth it. And I missed one. We'll grab that. Excellent. So we've got all of those polygons. Now we can create a selection tag. So we'll say selection, set selection. And if I were to grab this just green luminous material, I'm going to drag that also onto the Ragdoll. It's going to apply to everything, but we made all these tags and they all have the same name. So if I grab that material and drag the tag, it'll automatically override that. You can see that now we have a nice stripe down the front of it. So it's very easy to tell what the front of these are and if they're twisting in a way that we don't want them to. Excellent. All right. So all these objects are dynamic. If we hit play, they're all going to fall apart and we can see them very clearly. This is actually a really good step to save the scene file. So let's do that. And let's go on and start getting some control over this. Now, if they're all just going to fall apart, it's going to be very difficult to see what's happening. So I actually want to take the pelvis, select its dynamics tag, and inside of there, I'm going to go to the dynamics tab, and I don't want it to be dynamic anymore. I'm going to say dynamic off. And that means it's still dynamic. It just isn't going to be affected by gravity. It's stuck in the same place and everything else is going to kind of bounce off of it. But that kind of gives us a foundation to connect everything to. And when it comes to things like character animation, it's like the movement originates in the hips. So that's why we're using that as our base. So with that in mind, we need to, why don't we order this up a little bit? We'll make it a little bit cleaner. So we're going to start with the pelvis, go up to the upper body. That will then go to the head. And then from there, we can take the upper arm, lower arm, left hand. We'll move those up. And then the leg and foot will be last, just a little bit more organized. So first thing we want to do is actually connect the upper body to the pelvis. We can do that in a pretty straightforward way using a simulate dynamics connector. If you've never played with connectors or only used them in the most basic way, they're actually incredibly powerful. And I've actually learned a lot about them in this last year, and especially in the time of putting this presentation together. And I highly recommend going deep on them. Now, we're going to begin by, actually what I'd like to do is adapt the position of the upper body. That's what we're going to be pivoting from. So I'm going to make it a child of that. And we can click the reset PSR button, which is up here in the interface now. You see that's going to reset and it's going to be perfectly lined up there. Nice. Now, I actually enjoy putting the connector in kind of the parent object. It's like the parent, this pelvis is going to drive the upper body. So I'm going to make it a child of that. You don't have to. It's just a way of me being organized. With that in mind, we want to grab the connector and I'm going to drag the pelvis in the top because that's a start. The top was kind of like I said, the parent, and the bottom is going to be what is getting connected. So those two should now, just by doing that, should be connected. And when I hit play, we should see that that tap part is now stuck to this other one, but it's passing right through and it's falling down with gravity. So not exactly what we want. In addition to that, this is a hinge connector. There's a lot of different types of connectors and they're really powerful. They each do their own unique thing. What we're aiming to do here is build the most robust but simplest kind of combination of settings and connections to make the best Ragdoll that we can in this time. Our connector in this case is going to be a Ragdoll, and we're going to be using a lot of those. So this Ragdoll connection is going to enable it to move anywhere within this cone. I'm going to hit R for rotate and spin this up exactly 90 degrees. Holding down shift is going to enable you to rotate it properly in that orientation. Now, here's something I did not know for a really long time and is incredibly important, is a lot of connector types, they should not be perfectly on the axis of the object. It doesn't know what to do if it's exactly on the axis. If you ever done like IK rigging and you've ever tried to build like an elbow or a knee and it suddenly is backwards, it's that same idea. It doesn't know which way is forward unless we give it an idea of which way is forward. What I'm actually going to do is take this connector and I'm going to scoot it down just a little bit. And the instant I scoot it down, in fact, I'm going to undo. When I scoot it down just a little bit, you're suddenly going to see the cylinder pop up. And that cylinder is kind of representing the direction of these two objects combined. And you see that that is existing inside of this cone. The cone is kind of like a thing you put on a dog when it had surgery. So it can only move within that cone. And this cylinder has to be upward to be able to move within this cone. And when this is perfectly lined up, it doesn't know if it's inside the cone or outside of it or what its orientation is. So now it's properly lined up. And I want to hammer this home. It's really important. It's messed me up a lot of times. That is now upward and we're trapped in this cone. So if I hit play, then now you see the torso falls over and it's being stuck inside of this cone. So that is excellent. We have a lot of control with that. And I want to push this as far as we can. I want to give the Ragdoll a lot of freedom to bend in a lot of crazy ways. So inside of this connector, we're going to increase its radius all the way up to almost a full 90 degrees. It's as high as it can go. And now it can be anywhere essentially on that half of the plane. So we're going to want to be pretty organized here. So I'm going to rename this upper body, and that becomes our connector there. Now it's currently just falling down and we want it to have a little bit more control. In order to do that, we are going to use some springs. Now I did not respect springs enough in the beginning. I kind of ignored them. I didn't think I needed them, but they are awesome. I'm going to go ahead and actually, as a way of saving time and being a little bit more organized, I'm going to make a child of this upper body. That way I kind of know, okay, it is doing the same connection that upper body is. I can hit reset PSR and it's going to jump up there. That's actually not needed. But why don't we go ahead and drag in the same objects. So the pelvis and the upper body, and those are now connected. Now, currently we are on a linear spring, but there's two different types of springs. There's also a angular spring, and the angular spring is, you can kind of see it's like if you twist something one way, it's going to want to spring back like a little watch kind of mechanism. So with that in mind, first I want to make sure that I do the reference axis, and you can see this is aiming up on Z. So I'm going to set that to Z. I'm not 100% on that, but it does seem to help. So just by applying that, we hit set rest length. We can see the rest length is going to be already at 0 because that isn't rotated at all. But if they were at different rotations, that would do something. And if I hit play, we should hopefully see that the torso is not spinning around backwards anymore. Our green line is trying to stay lined up. Now, we could push that further by doing things like increasing our stiffness. If I crank that up to 11, then... yeah, that's a good demonstration of it. I tend not to like cranking up the stiffness because when you crank up the stiffness, it can get a little bit twitchy because it's trying really hard to get to a direction, but it's almost at a 90-degree rotation, so it doesn't know how it should orient itself. So there are limitations on how far you can push a spring alone, an angular spring especially. So that should be trying to get it to have the proper rotation, but it's not going to keep us vertical. So let's make a copy of it. Here's a second spring, and let's just call this just spring is actually fine. We'll just call it the spring. Actually, it'll be the spring position. So it's trying to keep this kind of straight. So I'm going to change that from angular back to linear. And you can see there's a connection from one section to the other. If I hit play, and really important, the rest length, we have to say set rest length. So currently there is a distance of about 29 units in between those two. If I hit play, it just falls down. It's not doing too much. But if we start increasing that stiffness, let's jump it up to 5, you can see now that it's attempting to keep these at a certain distance. Now, there's a lot of different ways of using these springs that I have found. And the way I would have done it in the past, and it is super valid, is to take the rest length and make it longer. So typically I would double it. So I'm going to say ×2, and it's going to double that. And now the spring essentially thinks it should be twice as long as we can visually see it, and that's what it's trying to get to. So even with the stiffness at 1, if I hit play, you can see it's trying really hard to keep it upright, and there's a nice springiness to it. So that is a super valid thing to do, is just increase your rest length. But there's a different technique that I've found is a little bit more controllable and art directable. And that is, we're going to change this from center of mass, which is currently just trying to find the middle of the dynamic body. We're going to change both of these to offset. So it is set, looking for the offset, looking for the offset. Now, by default at 0, it just means it's gone to the axis point. It's snapping to the axis. But I'm going to grab the pelvis and I'm going to say, actually, I want you up here near the tip of the torso, right where that would be ending. And then I'm going to grab the offset of the body, and I'm going to also move that up to about that same point. I'm just going to eyeball it. You could be very precise if you want to, but if I hit set rest length, you're going to see that the rest length is incredibly small. So with everything at defaults, with the stiffness and damping, this spring, this torso is being connected to a spring that is connected to the pelvis. And the pelvis is saying like, hey, I've got a point up here in space, and that's where I'm trying to get you to. Wherever the pelvis rotates to, that's where its offset is going to live. So even if it rotated, it would be up there. And it's kind of putting this torso, the top of the torso, on a very short leash. So if I hit play, even at these default settings, you can see, and ignore that spinning, that is behaving correctly. But you can see that's actually staying very, very upright. It's very controlled. We have very precise control over, I want you to go there. And what's great about this is actually, instead of increasing the stiffness, which can introduce some sort of jitter, we can actually lower this. I can say like 0.2, and now you can see that it is free to wiggle around a little bit at an even lower number. So that's a very good start. And as we go, it's going to be changing the dynamics of the way it's set up. So I'm not going to worry too much about all the little specifics as we go step by step by step, but I just wanted to make it clear how that is connecting. Now that that's being sprung forward, you can more clearly see that this rotational, this angular spring, is keeping the correct rotation. It is facing, it's facing pretty forward. But I know for a fact that later on, once we start dropping this and applying different forces, this angular spring is not going to be enough. So even if we're not going to see the effect very strongly right now, we are going to build in a slightly different system that should help us out here. And that is going to be creating a copy of our spring, our position spring here. So I'm going to rename that. And we're going to rename this one spring forward. And what this is going to do is the same idea. We're going to offset. Let's reset these actually. We're going to offset this. So let's say the pelvis is going up here, about the halfway point or a little bit up the torso. Keep in mind that this little middle section is also part of the upper part. And then let's see, okay, I got this. So I'm going to scoot this forward just by offsetting. I'm going to pull it pretty far forward, maybe like 2 or 3 times the width of the body that we're seeing. And then I'm going to grab the upper body and I'm going to scoot that one up a little bit and also offset it maybe about halfway the distance. This is just kind of my current workflow. This is not to say it's the best way of doing it, but I've gotten very reliable results from this. And I think the basic idea here would be that it's pivoting. You saw up here, we really locked it into position, but here we're giving it a little bit of room. There's a little bit of wiggle room on here. There's a little bit of length. So this could actually rotate and pivot a little bit and still have control. It will have control, but it can have a little more freedom to rotate. So just by doing that, we now have a spring that's saying, hey, there's a kind of a floating point in front of this body. And that floating point is always trying to stay connected to the spring at set rest length, this distance. So that is going to force this in a much stronger way to be forward. So it's going to almost make it impossible for it to twist around backwards. And that can happen very easily as other forces are applied. So we're going to be building that idea into every system as we move forward. So that was a lot of explanation just on one little section, but now it's going to go a little bit quicker as we begin to copy and paste this into other places. So let's do that again. And we're going to step by step do all of these because I think it's really important. I don't want to lose anybody. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and it's for the upper body, but I'm going to copy it into the head as a way of getting its position. So I can say 0 on Y, and I'm not going to reset PSR because I don't want to lose my rotation. So I just 0 out on Y, and you see, boom, it jumped up to the head. Now I can drag that onto the upper body. And here's something that is great. Connectors and springs share an identical parameter. These have the same parameter ID behind the scenes. So when you select all of them, you can see we have object A, object B, and they're all there. So I want to replace with what's doing the driving, and the driving is the upper body, and what is being driven, the head. So let's drag the head into the secondary object. And so all of those have jumped to that. Now let's go through them one at a time and make sure everything's correct. Now, remember what we were talking about before? We don't want to be lined up on the axis because it doesn't know what direction it should be. So if I just take this and scoot it down just a little bit, oops, I'm moving it in 3 dimensions. If I move it down just a little bit, it's going to shoot straight up, and now it knows what its orientation should be. So very important. Next up, let's just do the springs one at a time. And we just have to kind of tweak the variables. So this is our spring position. So it's kind of the upward one. So let's make sure we're up at the top of the head and up at the top of the head. And all we have to do is tweak those numbers, set the rest length. It's very close. Then we've got our forward one. Let's make sure that it is doing a very similar thing. Scoot this up to about the middle of the face, about the middle of the face, set the rest length. Excellent. So that should be facing forward. Boom. Did that. Now that is connected. It should be staying upright. It's all connected. Now you see, as soon as we added the head on here, it's so much heavier that the entire thing is flopped over. And that's what I meant when I said we're not going to worry too much about the specifics until we start connecting more of the body parts. But we can see that this is now connected. We can see that it's continuing to face forward and the rotation seems to be correct. Excellent. So let's do it again. Copy this. Oh, and we're trying to stay organized. So I want to rename this one to head because it's connecting from the upper body to the head. And it's important to keep these organized and named properly because now this upper body is going to get this entire rig a second time. So I made a copy. I'm going to continue from the bottom. So I'll just delete that and rename this one. And we'll name this one left arm. So that is going to connect to our left arm. Now, actually, I'm going to move it down here into the left arm and zero out any positional information. So let's snap it essentially to its axis point. I'm going to hit R for rotate. We know that right now it's kind of the cone is facing upward. If we want to visualize, of course, I can grab that and shrink this a little bit. And what we want to do is grab this and spin the entire thing 90 degrees, holding on the shift. It's at -90. And excellent. Now we know it has a proper position. So I can drag this back into the upper body. Hit E for move, so I can scoot it back just that little bit. And as we scoot it back, hopefully we can see, well, actually this is not, let me make sure I put this in the correct position. Looks like I put it in the head there. I think we want to be in the upper arm, and that is zeroed out. So I guess maybe I just have to scoot this back a little bit extra. So we want to make sure that that angle is the correct orientation. So I'm going to scoot this back, but actually this is interesting. The axis, the axis of the upper arm. Oh no, it is there. Interesting. So, well, let's just figure out exactly what's going on here. Now, if I were to, as I scoot this around, it should be relative to that position and the way these are getting connected. So it's a center of mass and the X. Okay, apologies. I was just making a little mistake there. I forgot to relink all of this to the new connection. So that's why it's trying to line up with the head. I was like, what's going on? So, okay, ignore that. Everything we just did is valid. We just have to select the left arm and all of its children. And let's make sure that we are connecting the upper body, which we are, to the left upper arm. There we go. That's what we were missing. So let's go through them one at a time. Let's grab the left upper arm, just scoot this back a hair. And as soon as we do, let's zoom out. You can see that the cylinder is shooting out forward, so it has the correct orientation. You want to make sure you don't move it back too far, because the further back you move it, the more it's going to not accurately rotate that point. Once it's in Ragdoll, you're not going to notice too much, but yeah, very important. Okay, now the position spring. Now this is completely different orientation, so I'm actually going to zero it out. You can just right click on any number here, and it's going to reset it to default if you right click on the little up arrow, down arrow thing. Let's grab the upper body, and its offset is going to move up and then probably here along Z. And I don't have to get this perfect, but I want to scoot this back to kind of where that pivot point is. So we'll also scoot that back in space a little bit. And now we can grab the upper arm and scoot that along here. So that lines up pretty well right there. And it probably should offset a little bit on Z as well. Those look pretty close. Hit set rest length. Again, a very nice small number. Excellent. So we've built the testing rig, so we can just keep on. Oh, let's do all of them actually. Let's grab the forward and the exact same idea. Let's zero out, 0, 0, 0, 0, and reposition these. Now, like I said, we're going to be very meticulous here. We're being very careful, even though we're going to repeat these ideas. It's the same idea kind of over and over again. I'm going to spend the time and do this properly here because I don't want to lose anybody. It's very specific. And once you have the Ragdoll, you can reuse it again and again and again everywhere. So you can see that I took the thing that's doing the driving and I pulled it more forward. And then I'm going to grab the thing that's being driven and scoot it to about the same position and go meet it, but not quite all the way. It's just the current technique that I find is working very nicely. Set the rest length, and we grab the spring. The spring is actually doing the correct rotation. I don't know that we need it, and in fact, the spring is probably pretty redundant. We might turn those off later and see that they're not doing that much because we've built in this forward spring, but it's working well so far. Let's go ahead and copy this entire rig again into our lower arm. Now, it's for the upper arm, but I'm going to put in the lower arm so we can once again adapt its X, and we're going to zero out its position. So it zeroes out and snaps over there. And now we can move it into the upper arm. Now, immediately, let's grab all of its connections and connect the upper arm and drive the lower arm. And it looks crazy when they're all selected, but let's just go through one at a time. But when you're bending your elbow and when you're bending your knee, they cannot pivot in all directions like your head or your shoulder might. So we're actually going to change this connector type to a different type. We're going to change this to a hinge type. Now, our axis is getting a little bit crazy. It doesn't really matter, but just to be a little bit cleaner, I'm going to see what we can zero out. In fact, I'm going to zero them all out and let's see what the orientation is. Okay, so it's rotated like that. We can just spin it up exactly 90 degrees. So negative 91, it's a little bit cleaner for rotation. So the elbow can only bend in that rotation. And that is very powerful. And when it comes to that kind of rotation, when it comes to the this one, I don't know if it's as important to offset, but let's take a look. And we might be able to see that more clearly because on this one, we are going to limit the angle. We absolutely do not want the elbow bending backwards. If the head twists a little bit more than it should, like I don't think it's going to stand out that much. But if an arm bends backwards, we'll see. So in this case, we will set an angular limit. And by default, I didn't used to know this. It used to drive me nuts. But I used to think that the solid part was where it was allowed to go, but it turns out that's like a blocker. That's blocking where it can go. You can see right now that it's, the thing being driven is showing this axis right here. So that can rotate in this big range. So by default, with this current rotation, we did get what we wanted. But something I would like to do is limit the rotation even a little bit more. I want to make it so this arm can never get all the way perfectly straight. You can see right now already that's a little bit bent. So I'm actually going to grab this upper number and I'm going to start shrinking it. You see up here, it's bending a little bit. And now it's not going a full 180 degrees, which means it could never quite straighten out. And the reason we're doing that is later when we're applying different forces, if it's stretched all the way perfectly straight, it doesn't want to bend over as much. It's kind of like, oh no, I'm a straight connection. You imagine like two cans stacked on top of each other. If they're perfectly lined up, they don't want to bend off of each other. But if they're forced to bend a little bit first, then it's going to allow for more of a rotation, more easily allow for a rotation. So that's excellent. We have a spring position for where we want it to end up. So let's, just to be clean, we'll zero everything out. Where do we want this to be attempting to get to? So we will offset the upper arm first. So I'm going to scoot this way over here towards the end and a little bit here on X. So we have, no, that's Z. So we have X, Y, Z. And then we can grab the lower arm and it should also be equivalently offset. And like I said, don't sweat these being identical. Just kind of close is more than enough. Set rest length. And there you go. It's very close again. And then we have our spring, which is going to try and keep it rotated to a particular angle. But you know what? In this case, I think that's significantly more redundant. So I'm going to just turn that one off. We'll keep it, but we'll turn it off. And then we've also got our spring forward saying, what is the forward direction of this? But I don't think we need that in this case either. I'm going to just turn it off, but maybe we do. So I'll leave it there. But I don't think we need it because the type of connector that we fed into this, which we should rename, this is... that's the left arm, and now this one should be the left lower. I'm just keeping the naming of what came out from the original figure. Based on that rotation, it cannot physically rotate in other orientations, so we don't have to worry about it being forward. So we get that one kind of for free. All right, so let's pick up the pace. We need to copy this also to the left hand. So I'm going to copy the hand. Now, you see, I actually did not copy the left arm one. I copied one of the ones from the upper arm because I wanted to go back to these settings more. I didn't want the hinge connector. I wanted the Ragdoll connector. So once again, zero out the position and move it up to the parent, the thing doing the driving. Select it. It is driving the lower arm to the left hand. And that should do all those connections. I did do that with this, right? Yeah, upper arm, lower arm. And actually, it's on both now, but we should always make sure to check, kind of do a little check to make sure it's working each step of the way. So we can see now that falls, and you can see that it is not twisting sideways. And you can see we do get a little bit of a bend in it, so that's excellent. All right, now we're back on this one. Let's rename it to left hand. And check our spring position. So zero them all out, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and get our offsets proper. So we'll scoot that one to the tip of the hand and scoot this one to match it. That one was nice and easy. Set the rest length, very, very, very close. The forward one, this one is actually kind of important. We don't want the hand to be twisting around at all these crazy orientations. So zero everything out, get it to the middle of the hand, scoot it. Nope, not that one. Let's scoot it forward on X. No, I'm sorry, Z. I keep doing those backwards. Give it a few more, and also offset the actual hands position. So we'll scoot that in and pull that one. Like I said, I've been kind of doing half the width of it and then matching it, because when they're smaller, they weigh less. So excellent. So that should be controlling that. And we also have the spring, which is perhaps redundant, but it's also adding some of that rotational energy in. So we hit play, and now we should hopefully see that the hand, actually, you see the hand got a little bit crazy there. It flapped around towards the back. Actually, nope, we forgot a step. We gotta be careful. We forgot to move this backward. Look, the cylinder is moving. It's aimed down. We have to take this and scoot the whole thing just back that little bit of hair, that tiny little bit. And now when I hit play, now the hand doesn't seem to be, it's not twisting around as backwards, but you know what? It's still flopping around more than I want it to. So just to show you, we can exaggerate these. If I push this further and I push this one to go match it, and we set the rest length, and we'll grab the forward one and make sure that it is out even more. Let's go even a little more than that, and then a little bit more than that. Set the rest length on that. This is forcing its hand more to be in those orientations. It's kind of like an up vector. And there we go. Now you can see the hand is trying to be very far forward. It does get whipped around a little bit here when it seems to collide with something, but we might, well, we'll deal with that as we get to it, but that seems okay. All right, excellent. So those are all set up. Let's work our way through the leg very quickly. Once again, this is pure iteration, but we're already doing all these forward ones, so we'll see how this goes. So all this is fine. I'm going to copy this directly to, actually, we're going back to, I'm going to hit escape because we're going back to the pelvis. So I'm going to grab let's collapse all the ones we don't need because those are done. Let's grab this pelvis one and duplicate it into the left thigh. 0, I'm just going to reset PSR. It's going to spin it in this crazy orientation. Let's shrink the cone so we can see it a little bit more clearly. You see it's aiming backwards. I hit R for rotate, spin it straight down. Now, we could be a lot more picky about the orientations here and make it so it's only limited to particular angles. I'm keeping it very free form. We're just kind of saying like, hey, try and stay forward. Like here, it's going to aim down. It can't twist to a crazy angle, but it can bend in ways that legs probably couldn't. So you could definitely go through here and tweak these. So it's like, okay, the leg can't go beyond that point, but I'm giving it as much movement as possible. That goes in there. It's zeroed out. Let's select all of it. This is going to connect from the pelvis to the left thigh. As I said, I like these to live with the parent, so I'm moving it back up to the pelvis. And as always, let's move it up a little bit from here because that's the orientation. The cylinder shoots downward. That's working properly. And let's very quickly reset our spring positions. This one's going to be a little bit different because it's off. These are offset from each other. So we'll scoot this one down to about the knee. That seems lined up pretty well. And offset downward to go match it. Set rest length. And this one's the forward one. Reset, 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 reset. Scoot down about halfway. Scoot it over. And pull it negative on, I think, World Z. A little bit more forward. This one. The leg definitely ends up with a lot of kind of twist on it, so I give this one a little bit more distance. And we'll pull this one out about halfway as well. Maybe pull it down. There we go. Nice straight line from it. Set rest length. I'm being a little more precise than I have to be, but it couldn't hurt. And this is also going to influence the leg to try and stay more straight here. Excellent. So that's that one. Rename this one to, I guess we'll just grab the name. So this will be the left thigh. Rename it. And then let's do it smart. Let's copy this into the left shin and zero it out. 0, 0, 0 on position, not reset PSR. And of course, this one is a hinge because it's a knee. We don't want it rotating all crazy. Actually, I guess I could zero out R for rotate, spin it 90 degrees so the knee will bend properly. Link this to all the proper things, which is going to connect the parent, the driver, to the driven child. Left shin, for the left thigh to the left shin. Move it up again, make it a child of the parent. And let's once again limit. This one, the way it was rotated is not quite what I wanted. Now, we could fix this rotation. We also just hit R and then spin this 90 degrees like that. So, that either work. I like this nice clean 0 to 180. And in the same way we were before, our leg is free to spin back in this area. This is the blocker. So I want to limit how far this can rotate. In this case, it's going to be increasing the 0. And you can see right here, that is going to make it so it can't quite straight. It's never going to be able to go fully straight. But you can see already the leg's a little bit bent. Excellent. And then we've got our spring position. This is going to try and pull this leg down towards the ground. So we do want that one. We'll scoot this one down. And that's already matching pretty well. Let's get rid of that offset. There we go. Very close. Hit reset. There we go. And then we've got our forward. Once again, we don't need a forward and we don't need the spring for this particular instance. I don't think we do. And we got one last one to do here. Once again, I'm going to go select it from the top because I want these settings. We'll put that on the foot, a copy. I'm holding that control as I make a copy. And now we can zero out the position. Hit enter. And then move it up to the shin, its parent, select it and all of the connections. Connect the shin to the left foot. Rename this left foot and scoot it up that little hair. Bink, very important. Cylinder aim down. And this one, the foot is the most important one to get the spring position correct. Now I'm actually going to hide the floor so we can see down below it just a little bit, because we want to take the spring position, which I'm actually going to say, I'm going to rename it spring down. And this is what's going to keep the foot going down. So I'm going to pull this one down pretty far. And actually I'm going to pull it back in space a little bit so it's kind of lined up with the axis. And then this one, of course, should be about the halfway point. So you see that I went pretty far for the distance of the foot to say, like, no, aim down. Excellent. And now we've got the spring forward, which is also very important. Let's zoom these. And this is what, or reset these. It's very important because it is what's going to keep the foot facing forward. So incredibly important. If the feet twist the wrong direction, man, it looks wrong. So let's scoot these back. And this one's going to pull pretty far forward. And I'm going to make this one pivot from here. So it really wants to get pulled that direction. Set rest length. And there we go. We have now done all of the basic connections. We should have probably been checking the feet as we went, but let's turn our floor back on, the visibility, and hit play. And let's see. Okay, that seems to fall over. The leg seems pretty stable. So let's turn the pelvis off, or turn the pelvis, I suppose, back on. It's going to become dynamic again. So we can drop this and see if it's working. So let's turn on. And everything is now dynamic. Deselect everything, hit play. Boom, it all crumples down. It looks pretty good, except, I guess, well, this upper leg seems to be twisting around quite a bit. But I also noticed that we were working from, our springs were set down to 0.2. I'm going to put those back to 1, which is, way stronger. So now we should see that that is trying really hard to stay forward. Now we're really it's crumpling in a very rough way right now, but let's keep going. You see the connections are there. It's trying to stay as far forward as possible, and then it does fall forward. So all of that seems to be working very well. So we need to mirror this. This is also a good place to give ourselves a save. There's something that I had not mentioned yet, and that should have been file B, but let's go ahead and make this C. Something I hadn't mentioned, which is it is incredibly important to make sure that this is all happening at the time of 0. Do not make changes to dynamics in general, but especially not to dynamics and connectors and springs, not at the time of 0, because it will lock your model into some new rotation, and there is no way to fix it except for completely manually. It's a nightmare. Okay, so we've got to make a copy of this entire thing mirrored over. Now, the mirror tool was not designed for this type of mirroring, so we'll have to do a couple tweaks afterward, but it does work pretty well. We've got a ragdoll. I'm going to go to our character tool, click on the mirror tool, and the only thing I'm going to change is go to the naming. I'm going to say I want to replace the word left with the word right. That's the only change I'm going to make. And now let's make sure we're viewing this from the front, or front-ish, like this, because by default, it's actually snapping to whichever view it's closest to. So we can click mirror here, and it's actually going to, boom, create a mirror of this. Now, this top one is the original. So I think that is the original. So I'm going to hide that. And now this one is the mirror. And you're going to see that all those objects that were in the middle, every piece of geometry that was at the halfway point has gotten deleted. Now that's okay because we actually copied the entire object, and those middle points, we don't need those. So we're going to completely ignore them and pretty much just extract all of the rest of this and move it into our main body. So everything here in the pelvis, well, let's delete the things we don't need. We don't need this upper body connector because that's going to be going away. We don't need the head at all. This upper body, we don't need the head connector. So, and then we're not going to need these bodies in the moment, but let's move. Now we've got the right thigh connector. Let's move that up into the pelvis. Let's make sure we grab it and its children and make sure that we link to this new, to the original pelvis, because otherwise when we delete the second one, that will be delinked. Make sure you get that one correct. And then we have the upper body, which is connecting to the arm. So I'm going to select that and move it up into our other upper body. And just to show you, we'll do the opposite. This I'm going to delete the pelvis, delete the upper body, which we don't need. And now when I go back up here into the right arm, you can see all of these have lost their object A. So we link to the proper upper body, and those have linked to that. So I believe actually that is pretty much all that we need to do. Let's go ahead. Well, it's all we need to do to move those things. I'm going to collapse everything in the hierarchy by holding down Control as I click. And let's move our new copied pieces into the appropriate spot. So I'm going to move them above the equivalent left one as a group. So there we go. So I'll keep the right leg together, the left leg together. So that's fine. So our ragdoll mirror did its job. We'll delete that and unhide this. So now we've got a mirror. But we should go through all of the direct connectors that move, actually almost everything. We have to go through almost everything and make sure that everything that we just made is connected properly, because certain things might not translate over to the other side very well. Specifically, the springs. You see, as soon as I click on the right leg, so this is connecting from the body to the right leg, what's happening is there's one value that can't get mirrored, and that is our X. The X value doesn't get mirrored. So it's actually pretty quick to fix. I'm just going to hit negative on that, and it should spin it there, and boom, you see it's lined up properly. Now if I hit set rest length, it didn't even change because now it did match. So it's mostly this X value needs to get flipped to the opposite side. Now I actually haven't tested it, but there's a chance that if we grab all of those pieces that we just were moving over, there's a chance we can grab all of them and just do the mathematical equation. To tell you the truth, it's so specific that I don't want to risk it. So anywhere we have a X value on the right arm, I want to invert those. So I'm going to say negative, negative, and boom, you see it jump to the proper spot. And then we have the spring forward on the right arm. So let's go negative on X, boom, that snapped correctly. And then I think it might be able to filter down the rest of it. Now this one, we turn them off, but let's click on this. And yes, you see it is on the opposite side. So let's go negative, negative. So these are all the things that got mirrored, and we're fixing those. The spring forward, we didn't even use that, so we'll leave that off for now. Position spring, that one's wrong. Negative, negative. There we go, on the tip of the hand now. And forward, negative and negative. There we go. We got the forward one. And I believe that was it. That was less painful than I thought it would be for mirroring everything over. So if this is working properly, which you never know if it is or not, we should hopefully be able to hit play. I'm going to save this first, and this will be letter 1D. And this will be the mirrored step, and deselect everything. I'm going to even collapse the hierarchy down, re-expand it. So I held down Control as I collapsed it, and then don't hold it down. So now everything's collapsed, and I can just see those levels. Let's hit play and see if it seems to be working. Yeah, actually that seemed to work pretty well. It's a pretty good, just like fall down kind of ragdoll. So excellent. That's an excellent start. In theory, we've got a ragdoll and we just start messing around with it, but let's start getting some controls. Let's get a little bit of something going on in here. So we don't want just falling onto the ground. So the first thing we need to do is actually, let's turn off gravity. That's gonna be the very first thing. In fact, let's do some universal settings here. I'm gonna hit Controller Command D if you're on a Mac, and go to Dynamics. And I'm actually gonna take our time scale, and I'm going to set it up to 150. I've always kind of felt like the dynamics in cinema feel a little sluggish, so we're going to speed it up so it's a little bit quicker. And then under the Expert tab, essentially we're making the time go faster. And if the time is going faster, then that means essentially more movement is happening in a shorter time. So we should give it some more steps per frame just to make it equivalent. So jumping this up to 7 or 8 in my mind makes it so that it's like the same amount of time for calculation for movement as we had before. So it's just a little bit faster. And I'm going to go back to general and take our gravity and set it to 0. So now there's no gravity. And if we hit play, this should just start gently floating up into the air. Excellent. Now, the reason we're doing that is because now we can make a simulate force wind. We could use gravity, but I like wind. I'm going to hit R, and we're going to point this straight down. And the reason we're doing that is just so that we have a wind that we can easily turn on and off. So I'm going to rename this one gravity. And I did a lot of testing, and the number for gravity to match what Cinema has is 40. And I found out by having one wind counteracting it until it just until it perfectly floated, and it was exactly 40. Now that should be applying to everything. Now we turn gravity off, but we should be able to play. Everything runs a little bit quicker, and this still falls down the way we would expect. Boom. Excellent. Now let's make it so this continues standing. We want it to stand. Let's have this thing stand. It's just falling down with gravity. I don't want to see the gravity, so let's turn that off. And we could use another wind to do this, but let's start introducing some field forces. So under simulate forces, let's create a field force. This field force, I'm going to say, I need to give it a direction. So I'm going to say the direction. We can do that via solid. And yeah, just click solid. And now you can see it's 1, X, Y, Z, positive Y. That means it's pointing upward. So everything's pushing upward. Now I just know for a fact that the good value here is going to be about 155. Actually, it's more like 200. So we're going to do 222 because it's quick to type. And now I hit play, you see, zoom, it shoots up in the air. So, okay, that's really powerful. And that's because it's applying to everything. So what I'm actually going to do is something a little bit unusual. We're going to select all of our dynamic objects, and under forces, I'm going to say, don't exclude things. Instead, I want you to include things. I'm going to say everything should include our wind gravity. So everything's being affected by gravity, but only the upper body, I'm going to select just that dynamic tag, is going to be affected by this field force. So let's rename this one upper body. And now we have a field force that's affecting just the upper body. So when I rewind and hit play now, you see it's going to go up in the air, but the arms and legs are falling down this time. Excellent. So now it's still flying up in the air, so it's too strong. So what we need to do is limit it somehow. So I'm going to, on this solid, create a mask. And I did that backwards. So, oh, actually, I misclicked and made the folder. So let's create a mask. And in that mask, I'm going to create a linear field. The linear field will become a child of the mask. Make sure you turn this on so it's actually affecting the mask. Set that to normal. And currently it's on X plus, but in this case we want a Y minus. And now if I play, it should fall to the ground, except you see it's kind of up in the air just a little bit at the bottom. So if I were to grab this linear field and move it up, as I move it up, this torso is getting pulled in the air so much that it's wherever we pull this, the torso wants to go. And if we pull it up enough, we should be able to find some sort of equilibrium where the torso is floating, but the rest of it is standing. So, okay, that's working well. We don't have that much time. So let's go and just turn off our display here. We don't need to see that. In fact, we'll just make that invisible. And now we can see, now we can get a little more information from the body. Like clearly a bunch of things are happening. Like this torso is not trying to stay upright enough. The arms fall down pretty well. Like I like that they're kind of jiggly and loose, but I feel like the forward facing direction needs to be stronger on them. So let's go in, and the head definitely needs to be stronger. So now we can actually start playing a little bit with our simulation. So let's go ahead to the pelvis, and we've got our upper body connector, and you can see now how powerful it is and important it is to have been naming these things. So I'm actually going to grab both of those, and let's just crank it up to 1, back to the original stiffness of 1. And now we can see that the torso is staying a lot straighter. Let's do the same thing on the upper body. Grab the head connector. Let's grab both of those and set their stiffness to 1. And now, boom, the head suddenly snaps up quite a bit. And I was trying to stay upright. You can see the entire body is staying upright. The arms are twisting a lot in the beginning. So let's twirl down. Actually, it's in the torso. So we got the arm. I'm going to grab all 4 of the positional based ones. We got position forward in the arms. And let's also set those to 1. And boom, you can see that these arms are trying to face forward. Oh, okay. I'm immediately seeing something that we forgot to do. Remember when we were fixing the mirroring problems? Well, there's one we forgot to fix. And that is on the arm, there is a connector. And this connector is, this didn't get mirrored properly. So the arm is being told that it can bend backwards versus what we want. So in order to fix that, I think all we have to do is spin this around 180 degrees. Nope, maybe it's here. Let's do positive 90. There we go. So that spins around in the positive orientation. And now the arm is back to bending, hopefully the correct way. And the same thing probably happened on our right, our left thigh. No, the right. Oh, I guess this would probably be, yeah, it would be the right thigh. So in the right thigh, we have the right thigh connector. There we go. And yeah, now we can see that this knee can only bend backwards, and that's going to trip us up a lot. So let's fix that. I'm not sure what rotation it is. So let's just, actually, I'll hit R for escape, hit R for rotate, and let's spin that. Oops, be very careful and grab the correct axis. And now there, it's that one. So if I set that to positive 90, then that should be flipped around. And now those should at least be the correct orientation. So let's just, without changing anything else, just all we do is flip those around to match our orientations, hit play. And there we go. Now you see the left and the right are behaving the same. So they should be able to bend correctly, and that the forward motion is being forced a lot more strongly there. And let's see, what else do we want to do? I think I might want to turn off that spring, the right arm spring, and that spring, the rotational one, the angular one, just so it can twist around a little bit. And you can see very much that they're trying to stay straight. So I think that this forward, or this positional one that's keeping them very far straight, I'm going to weaken that one. So let's set that to maybe 0.5. And we can even, that one, maybe go back to 0.2. It's being forced to go very forward, but now it's allowed to rotate and flop downward. Excellent. So you can see now how we're like kind of rigging this up. We're now able to art direct the way that this is moving. Now, having said all that, something we should have maybe done a little bit earlier is in the Ragdoll, something I've been enjoying doing is changing some of the settings we feed directly into it. And along those lines, something I've been doing is changing the world density, and I've been doing a custom density of 0.2. So what this is doing is it's 1/5 of the density. And I have found that the springs, the density is very responsive to springs. So springs become more powerful if the density is lower. And as long as this whole body is relative to each other, I think it's completely fine. In addition to that, something just a good default I've been finding is you can end up with a lot of jiggle in the character. So I've been doing an angular inside the dynamics on all of them under force. I've been setting an angular damping of 90% and a drag of just 1%. And that's going to drain a lot of energy out of the way that they're wiggling, and it's going to calm itself down quite a bit. Now, because, well, okay, so that's all good. The next thing I would like to do is make this maybe calculate just a little bit quicker. And to show you that, let's go ahead and pause it, rewind, hit save, and let's go to the global settings again, Control D or Command D. And under Dynamics, I'm going to click on the Visualization tab. If you've never clicked on this, it shows you what the dynamics are currently doing. Now, it only does it if we're in a different frame, but you can see as soon as I hit play, this is all the calculations that it's having to do. It's like the directions and the speeds, but you can see that it's got this very complicated mesh that's trying to do on all these limbs. So what I'm going to do to make this calculate quicker, and actually we can simplify by, we can hide all that extra information. So now we just sort of see the limbs. What I'm going to do is rewind, and with all of our different dynamics selected, I'm going to change the shape from automatic, which is creating that mesh. I'm going to change these because it's a very simple character. I'm going to change this to be ellipsoid. That is changing these to be calculating like they're a sphere, and it can be a stretched sphere, but because it's such simple geometry, this should make very clean, very precise calculations. But there is one exception. When I hit play, we're going to see that the feet are going to get really wobbly because they're being treated like they're spheres, which means it can rotate and pivot around in a really weird way. So we are going to grab the 2 feet, and I'm going to set those, and let's make changes at time of 0. Let's change those to be boxes, and boxes are going to be very stable. And look at that. Just by changing that, look how stable the feet suddenly became. Now, because we just changed the form that these were all seeing, we changed kind of the density calculations a little bit. So you can see that this is the point where this is floating is a little bit different. So let's turn off this visualization. We don't need that anymore. And go back up to our gravity, our upper body torso thing. And actually, this is a little big. I'm going to pinch this in a little bit. And I want to move this up and down. And what this is doing is finding its natural equilibrium. So if I scoot this down right to the perfect spot, we should be able to, we should be able to make him not stand upright, but his feet will be flat on the ground. So that's pretty good right there. Excellent. So that is working awesome. Now we are probably way over time. So we need to just do the last little fun things here and then maybe jump into the Mixamo bit. We can create a cloner, and everything we've done here is completely compatible with the cloner. So by dropping this into the cloner, I can drag this up in the air, put a little more space in between them. And I think we can go to maybe about 10 or 12 with my computer. It's a pretty good computer. But by doing that, I should be able to just hit play, and we've got all these independent ragdolls, each calculating uniquely to just themselves. Let's give ourselves a couple extra frames here to play with. And now we see all those falling down, and they're all going to do their thing. It'd probably be a good idea to grab the cloner here and randomize the color. So I can hit randomize. I don't want the position, but I do want to turn on a custom color of white, use the alpha strength. I'm going to go under effector and 0 this out. and grab the cloner and make the initial value black. And that should give us a very clean, random black to white colorize. Actually, I didn't do that correctly because we don't want it to do it that way. We probably do want the colors. So inside of the random, we don't want that negative, but I'm going to turn off alpha and we'll just use the effector color, and that should randomize the colors. Now we're not going to see that while these materials on there. If I pull them off, we can see that yes, they do each have a unique color. So now inside of something like the front material, we can go into the luminance channel and feed it the MoGraph color shader, and that should automatically work there. We can go into our checker pattern, and if we want to have this applied to a material as well that we've already got, I can feed this into something like a fusion, and in the fusion, I'm going to feed that also a MoGraph color shader, have it multiply on top of it, and that should darken all of those colors up. And if we reapply these materials onto our characters or onto the cloner, you can see that this has now been colorized, and even their front stripe has adapted that color. And now we can see each individual character getting the different colors applied. And now we're at the point where you can just have fun with it. We can do a lot of different forces. We don't have a lot of, we don't have enough time to make it super crazy, but what we can do is we got to do this one. I'm going to create a simulate forces. Oh, nope, it's not force. It's under dynamics, but it is called force. So we're going to create a force, and I want to, once again, apply this to all the dynamics. Now we have to actually select all of them, and then not the upper body, because the upper body has a different thing in its list. So I'm going to drag in the force to everything, and then also now just grab the upper body, and you see it's a different list, so we had to select it separately. Drag in the force there as well. Now I'm going to turn it off. And actually, why don't we, instead of dropping these, let's make a radial array. We'll make 10 of them and spread them out. So we've got all of them. They're all happy. Hit play. We're still running in about real time. Like I said, we can get about to 10 or 12 of them, and they're hanging out. But now we can start messing with them. Now I'm going to crank this force up to 111 just because I know that's a good value. But now we can do things. Let's rearrange this a little bit. We can do things like, let's let them settle in a little bit. We can do things like turn off their upper body, so now suddenly all falls down. We can turn it back on again, and then they'll stand back up again. We need more time. Boom. Raise that up. We can now turn off, I'm going to turn off the upper body and then turn off gravity. And now they're all going to float in the air. And then we can suddenly turn on gravity and they'll all fall to the ground, and then turn it off again and they'll begin floating again. But then one of the ones that's most fun is force. If I turn on force, then they're going to get attracted to each other. Blum, 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 blum. So force is kind of like a particle attractor, or like particle on particle attractor. So these guys are definitely not doing their social distancing, but it's just a really fun parameter. I'm actually going to, we got to be careful about not breaking anything. But if we hit play right now, they're all going to get pulled into the center. It looks a little more visually interesting if we let them float for a little bit randomly, and then you let them get pulled in. You get more of a ball, and then we can turn the gravity on, and they can fall into the ground, and then we can turn off the force, and they'll all collapse into a pile. Turn the force back on, they back into a ball, float away. Turn on the torso floating, turn this off, and they'll all pop out, and they'll all be trying to stand themselves back up again. So you can see we've made an incredibly robust rig here that we have just a lot of control over. Now there's probably tweaks we can do, little changes. And when it comes to me playing with this, making as many of these clones as you can and still run in real time is great, because you'll see the mistakes quicker. Like if one of them's foot twists, you're like, oh, the foot might not be reacting quite right. And you make the changes quicker if you have this type of setup. So yeah, that is excellent. Now we're going to have to probably fast forward through this next part, but I do want to cover it as much as possible. So we will save this scene file here. And once again, if you follow on Patreon, all these scene files will be made available. So these are, I'll just call it Ragdoll, because these are now Ragdolls. Let's turn off the cloner. And what I want to do is show you how to integrate a Mixamo character, or kind of really any character, but a Mixamo character is going to make it really simple to do. So if you're unfamiliar with Mixamo, if you have an Adobe subscription, then you can... If you have Mixamo, if you have Adobe, you can log into mixamo.com, and you can get you see this big list of characters, and these are all textured, modeled, rigged, ready to go. And they don't have that many models, and we don't have too much time. So what I'm going to do is click on the characters, and I'm going to go down to the SWAT guy. I just really like it. I'm going to say use this character. And if you're not familiar with Mixamo, you should totally play around with it, because it's really neat. But you can click on animations, and and click on any one of these, and you're going to have your character start doing that motion. And it's just a lot of fun. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend this tutorial series from School of Motion. Specifically, EJ put this together, and it's all about bringing Mixamo characters into Cinema and making it linked up with the Cinema 4D character tool. And so you can add your animations on top of it. It's really powerful and really nice. But in any case, we got this character. He's dancing around. He's doing his thing. Let's pause it. I'm going to hit download and leave it all default. Let that download. Okay, that downloaded. So I'm going to open it up in my folder and then drag that directly into Cinema. It's going to have all these import settings. Just leave them default and give that a second. It's going to pop in, open everything up. And there we go. It refreshes and I can hit play. And we've got a dancing character already textured, fully rigged, ready to go inside of Cinema. But of course, we don't want the animation, so we can get rid of it. The way we get rid of it is actually you have to go into the takes system because it was imported into a take layer. Select the Mixamo layer and then say File and say Current Take to New Document. So I was going to split it off into a separate file. And now we've got this. If we expand this, you see we've got all these different joints. Now what we can do is put him to his T-pose by selecting the geometry. And this particular character only has a single piece of geometry. So I can click on that and there's something called Reset Bind Pose. If you click that, he'll go to his T-pose. So without clicking undo or anything, let's go ahead and click the bottom joint and then all the way up to the topmost joint. And you see all of the keyframes, they're all here on the position and the rotation. So I'm actually just going to select R and then hold down Control and click P. And then you see I have all the R's and all the positions selected. And holding Control and Shift or Command and Shift, if you click on any of those keyframe dots, it'll actually erase all of them out and delete the tracks. So now there's no animation here whatsoever. So with that in mind, we're going to have to do the fast forwarded version of this, but selecting all of that, let's go into our scene file with the Ragdoll, paste this. I'm going to save it really quick because I don't want to lose any good information that we have. So let's just change this to the Mixamo file. Okay, so now I'm going to talk through maybe more of the procedure than literally going through the entire thing. And if you do this in a kind of clean, meticulous way, it's not too bad. So what we are going to need to do is go to every single one of our models, every single one of our different meshes here, and snap the axis to the equivalent joint. Now, what I want to mention is look at how perfect this is matching our character. Like it is really, really close. And it's just a great workflow with Mixamo. But all I want to do right now is select the axis tool, and I've got the pelvis selected, and I want to snap the pelvis's axis to its equivalent joint. So I'm going to hit P for snap and turn on snap, hit P again, turn off vertex snap, P one last time, and turn on axis snap. And now I am going to move the model's axis to every one of the equivalent joints. And we're just going to whip through these, snap, and I'll probably fast forward here because this is just a little tedious. So we'll snap. Okay, so those are all snapped. Now what we need to do is move all of our equivalent controls, and you're going to see how useful it was for us to kind of build the hierarchy the way we did here. We need to essentially do the exact same thing, except we're going to turn off the axis tool. Make sure the axis tool is off, otherwise it won't move the children. So I'm going to move that to snap to there. And actually, we'll just go through all of these. And I'm just going to snap all of, every time we have a connector, it's going to snap to its equivalent spot. And let's fast forward again. And snap. Okay, now that those are snapped, let's turn off snapping. Letter P, turn off enable snap. And now I'm just going to go back down the hierarchy again. And we have to do the exact same thing that we had been doing, which is before, which is pulling that up, kind of offsetting it that little bit. So pull up and make sure your blue line goes the equivalent down. Grab this one, pull it up, make sure that that lines up. So let's fast forward one more time and make sure you're doing the opposite. Like that one goes up, so let's pull it down. So just give it that little bit until you can see your blue line going the correct orientation. And scoot the last one. There we go. They're all snapped. Of course, you do not have to do the hinge ones. And now everything is moved into their new positions. Now, the last part is you can be as meticulous and specific as you want to, or be very quick and sloppy. But the last one is actually just going to Polygon Mode and manipulating the polygons of any given one of these objects and matching the model as accurately as you want to. So I can scale these up. And it's okay if they pass through each other a little bit. You just want to match it as well as you visually can. And the more accurate it is, the more accurate your model will be. And even here, don't worry, we're not changing the axis. That's already in the correct position. So just make this match as well as you kind of visually can. And I'm not going to really, I'm going to do this quickly. And but you could go through and start moving individual polygons or even modeling a little bit and making them more accurate. And the more accurate you make it, the more it's going to match. But you don't have to go that far and it will look pretty good. So let's just go through and speed this up again a little bit. Okay, cutting back in for a moment. I just moved all the arms up at the same time because once again, we're just moving geometry. But I'm going to select all of these. And here's something cool if you didn't know. With all these selected, I can actually select any one of their axis and that will become my pivot point. So I actually move all three of them at the same time just on a single pivot. So once again, I'm just moving geometry by making it match as quickly as possible. And I'm shocked at how sloppy we can be with this, and it should work pretty well. So back to Speedy. Okay, and make sure you get the feet right. If the feet are not quite correct, these I'm going to scoot back. They're a little bit long, T for scale. Scoot them back, T for scale. So if those are a little bit more accurate. Now, once again, you can see how crazy sloppy I just was with all that geometry. I didn't really care how perfect they were. They're not lining up. They're not even perfectly symmetrical in any way. But before we break anything, let's save it. I'm going to save this number 1G, and this will be Mixamo matched. And before we do anything, let's hide the Mixamo character and make sure that this is still working. If you did everything the way I just did it with any luck, it might fall a little bit, but let's hit play. And look at that. It is still a ragdoll. It's still bouncing around and everything is still matching. And honestly, the proportions don't look that crazy. It's just kind of like a bigger character now, and everything's still facing forward. It's bouncing. It's maybe a little bit shorter, or the mass is a little bit different. So our upper body maybe wants to be a little bit lower. So we can grab this upper body. We can grab the linear field inside of it. Let's just scoot that down until he stops bouncing. Excellent. All right, all of that is working. Now it is the last step for making this character work. I'm going to collapse the entire thing down as I have been doing, re-expand, we can see it. And it gets a little bit weird, but just follow along. I'm going to create a second object manager. And the second object manager, we're going to make it bigger, and we can expand our entire Mixamo joint structure. We can make it visible as well. And what I'm going to do is start dragging the equivalent joints directly into the character. Now, we could do fancier methods. We could start matching it. We could use constraints to make it fancy. We don't need to do any of that. Let's just do the very basic version. So I can grab everything and make it a child of the pelvis. I'm going to be jumping back and forth between the two, so don't be shy about doing that. So everything is inside of there. That makes sense. But everything that goes up to the torso, let's go to a front view here. Everything that goes up to the torso, let's figure out where that is. Not that one. That one, that's the one that's pivoting from the same spot. So that one gets moved over into the upper body. And then we have our neck. Nope, the neck is too low. So it's actually the head. The head joint is the one that we were snapping to. So the head joint gets dropped directly into the head. And then next up, we have a shoulder. Well, the shoulder's not where we pivot from. The arm is. So let's go to left arm. We'll drag left arm into left upper arm. And then we can grab the right arm and drag it into the right upper arm. And then we start jumping back here, whichever way makes it quicker. We can grab the forearm. So that's the right forearm. Drag it into the right lower arm is the equivalent. And then down here, let's grab our left forearm and drag it into the left lower arm, I do believe. Yep. And then we have, what do we got? We got our left hand. That is the equivalent. So we'll drag that into our left hand. And we have our right hand, obviously equivalent to our right hand. Now there's all these fingers and everything. We're not worried about those. So let's collapse those down. And then let's go back into the pelvis, because in here we have our upper leg. Excellent. Upper leg, which should go into our right upper leg, which is right here, the right thigh. And then we have the left lower leg, which will go into the right. Looks like I just I accidentally dragged the left leg into the right leg. So I didn't mess anything up yet. I just have to drag in the right spot. So let me make sure I drag the right thigh, the left leg into the left thigh. There we go. Geez, I was completely blind. Left thigh. And then the left lower leg goes into the left shin. And then the left foot goes into the left foot. You'll even see the joint start kind of visually breaking there. It doesn't matter. It still works. And now we just have the last one, which is the right upper leg, which will drop into the right thigh. Right leg, which goes into the right shin. And once again, you just click it, you see which one the equivalent is, and drag it into the appropriate spot, into the right foot. There we go. They've all been dragged into their proper places. Go back to our 3D view. We do not need to see the character anymore. Or no, we do want to see the character now. In the Ragdoll, we actually don't need to see the Ragdoll anymore. We just see our final character and hit NA, so we don't see polygons. And with any luck, we can hit play, and nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? That tripped me up a lot in the beginning, but let me show you. Let's collapse our entire hierarchy and expand the Ragdoll. And what we need to do is select all the dynamics tags. And inside of R21, they changed the defaults in the collision, and it's by default applying the tag to the children, but it doesn't know the joints don't know what to do with that. So if we say none and set individual elements also to off, those are now not affecting anything inside of their own little hierarchy. And now if we hit play, we have a fully dynamic Mixamo character that all the same things we were doing to the other one, we can do here. We can make him collapse on the ground. We can turn off the gravity, and we can start making copies of them and have them be floating around and do whatever we want. Now, a couple last little details are really important. It really, like there's a whole character, there's a whole rig, there's all this mesh stuff. It can start slowing things down significantly. So what I've been typically doing is I pull the Ragdoll out, and I'm going to hit Alt-G to put that into a null, and we'll rename this character. I'm going to grab the character and drag it also into there. And now we're hiding these different parts. So if we were to drop this into the cloner, I guess here's another important detail is this rigged character will not work in the cloner. You cannot work him in the cloner. What you can do, though, is make a couple of clones and then make it editable. Now, like I said, this is going to slow down a lot, so I'm going to drop this down to 3. So we have 3 of them, and I can make it editable. As soon as it's editable, it will completely work. If I hit play, we have 3 completely separate characters. We turn on force. They're going to be attracted, first of all, to themselves and then to each other. We can turn gravity back on, have them collapse. It's just hilarious and fun and weird to mess around with. But you see, there is a significant speed hit there, and you have to make that editable. So what I suggest is, first of all, only make changes at the time of 0. Make sure you save your scene file before you make it editable, because very often it's like, oh, I want to do it. I'm going to tweak the gravity. I'm going to tweak some settings. I'm going to change the Ragdoll a little bit. And then you're like, oh, I didn't make my cloner not editable. And you have to go back and fix that. So make sure you have to undo the make editable before you put it back in. Now, having said that, couple quick little workflow things. First of all, you're free to, if this character isn't in the cloner, you can just copy and paste it, and you can make as many of them as you want. That does just automatically work. And they're completely separate. They're individually dynamic. They completely work in this scenario. So that works. You can just make copies, and I'll delete that one. And also, if you want to run test simulations, you can always throw the entire character in. And then what I've been doing is I just pull out the geometry and then turn on the cloner, and now you have to unhide your character, obviously. But if I turn my character back on again, I can crank this back up to pretty much the same number that we had before. It might be a little slow down with all the joints inside, but yeah, it's still pretty quick. And you can see I have all these characters, and I can run all the simulations and do my tests and be like, okay, cool, this looks cool with all these characters. We have all of our characters, and we have control over them. And then when you're ready, then all you have to do is, I'm going to pause, rewind, and then all I have to do is drag the character, the geometry, back into my character null, make it editable. And then before you do that, make sure you hide the Ragdoll again. Make it editable, and now boom, it's going to be working with all of them. It should be the same simulation. So that is pretty much all the different details. And yeah, man, there's a lot to cover there. Maybe I'll do some follow-ups. There was some extra information that I definitely could have gotten to that we did not get to go to here. One of the things being that we could start using field forces and create extra controls where you can make like a whole dance party where these are all fully dynamic and they're dancing and they're bouncing off each other, and you make the hands jump independently and make the hands start feet do different movements. And then, if you start going even deeper with field forces, then you can do things, these weren't fancy renders, this was when I was doing testing, but I can even do something like use field forces and crash this ball through there and make it so that anything that was hit is going to turn off for a little while. So they'll actually collapse down and be dynamically stopped. So maybe I'll do some follow-up. So make sure you come and follow on YouTube to see some additional information on that. But that should wrap up the meat of this one. So hopefully that was as fun to watch as it was to play around with and make on my end. It's just a really fun technique, and I can't wait to see what everybody puts together with it. It really just ends up being another tool in the toolbox. It can be applied in so many different ways. Dynamics in Cinema 4D has always been one of the most fun things to do, and applying it to characters is just like this exponential increase in like chaos and fun that you can have with it. As I said, this originated as a question on a live stream. And if you'd like to come hang out on those live streams, we answer Cinema 4D questions live every Wednesday on Twitch and on YouTube for at least 2 hours. We've been going more like 4 hours during these crazy times. And it's just a lot of fun. And it's fun figuring things out together, and the chat helps me figure it out, and we just make some fun, crazy things. You can follow that on YouTube and on Twitch at Rocket Lasso. In fact, you can follow Rocket Lasso at all of the things: Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the different places, Facebook. And if you really like this kind of stuff, we're working on new plugins. We are working on tutorials, always got tutorials out, and like I said, the live streams. But we've also got a Patreon set up. If you appreciate this kind of stuff, you'd like to see more of it and help support the kind of stuff that I do over here and that my brothers are working on, then that would be really appreciated. If anything we've ever done was helpful to you in the past, it's deeply appreciated. All of the scene files that were created during this are going to be available on Patreon as well for anybody supporting at any level. In addition to that, there's bonus live streams and early access to things and all the scene files from all of the live streams. So it's appreciated, but the tutorials are always going to be out there and free, and the big open live streams. And, eventually any fun technique just ends up out in the world for everybody. And that's really important to me. So thank you so much for any support, and thank you for watching very much. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again when everything goes back to normal. And thank you very much for watching.